Hello and welcome to the Promised Land, a show about Manchester United and part of the 90 Min podcast network. I'm Scott Saunders, joined by Rob Blanchette as ever, fresh off the back of a second official summer signing for Manchester United. Andre Onana has joined and been given the number 24 shirt. He's on his way, or is probably in, and you're probably, by the time you're listening to this, seeing pictures of him in training with United in New York City, I believe, Rob. Very good news.
You got your goalkeeper wish, Scott. You got it. So, look, we all knew with David De Gea that it was all a bit contentious. No real understanding as to why Manchester United wanted to retain him when they had that opportunity to move him on. Why Ten Hag wanted a goalkeeper that couldn't move the ball with his feet. And guess what happened? They went and got a goalkeeper who can move the ball with his feet. So, Andre Onana, excellent signing. I think we've been ahead of the curve here on our show. We've talked about Onana now for a really, really long time. It feels like we've done multiple shows on him. And we're at the end. He's now actually a Manchester United player. He's going to be the number one next season. And it'll be interesting to see now, I think, stylistically, what Manchester United do on this tour. Now they've got a goalkeeper that can genuinely pass the ball.
We're not sure if he'll be jumped in straight away into the mix. I think United play Arsenal on Saturday. But as we did mention in their friendly so far, United have kind of played with... I think Eric Ten Hag has instructed the team to play in the manner that they would play when Onana's there. So I don't know. And Ten Hag knows, or Onana knows exactly what Ten Hag expects of him already, or the most of it. So maybe he does come in straight away.
Well, Kovar's not gone on the tour. I don't know if you're aware of that. So he's obviously gone with the under 21 part of the tour. And we obviously fully expect him to go out on loan now. So that kind of leaves you with like Heaton plus Onana. It probably means Heaton does start those games. That's not a problem. And it's just about getting Onana up to speed to be able to feature in a match. But I doubt he'll be in the next match, as you say.
Yeah,
but,
that's true. He's only had a day's training or something.
But he's had a day's training, but he has been training with Inter. So, like, his fitness levels might be of a required standard to be able to do 45 minutes in a football match in a friendly.
Of course, fitness when it comes to goalkeepers isn't usually a question. But with Andre Onana, he's quite adventurous. He likes to come out of his box and, get involved.
How many assists is he going to get next year, Scott? That's going to be the sweepstakes.
Let's go 10.
You wish.
10 and 10. Anyway, today's show, we'll talk a little bit more about Onana. I won't spend too much time on it because that is official. Bruno Fernandes has been announced as club captain. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Rasmus Hojlund because that's going to be the crux of the show today because I think Onana in, Mason Mount in, Rasmus Hojlund, I think, might be next, and we'll see where United are with that one. We'll talk Sofyan Amrabat as well towards the end of the show, and you can subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts and watch us on YouTube as well. Head over to the channel, like, subscribe, and leave a comment for us as well, and follow us on the interweb, social media, website things at @Scott Saunders, @ _Rob _B, and at Promise Land MU for the show. And come and join us in Las Vegas. We're just under a week away from traveling out there now at UnitedCon from July 28th. And that is upon us, Rob. We'll be doing some stuff out there, I would think. And I'm not sure exactly how the output will look yet in terms of what we put out. But we'll have a discussion of that on the long flight, I would imagine, Rob.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of kind of pre-production on a 10.5-hour flight to Vegas. So, we'll go through it and we'll see what we'll put out for you guys.
Yeah, visit united-con.com to book your place now. I think running out of time to do that. But everyone I've had a few people reach out to me saying they're keen to come in and meet us, Rob, and like be a part of it. So if you would like to, there is a chance, united-con.com. Anyway, let's talk about anything else to talk about on Onana, Rob? I mean, how revolutionary is this a signing on the scale of 1 to 10 for United's style of play?
12.
Okay, there we go.
So that's that.
Like not between 1 and 10.
Yeah, but that's how revolutionary it is. That's so revolutionary, it's above 10. So I think the whole thing is that we've debated as to why Ten Hag does certain tactics and why he wants to play a certain way. And most of it is just, I think, crystal clear. Like it really is. It's about what the modern game is doing. You need a goalkeeper that isn't that guy who just goes and tips the ball away from the top corner, which is what De Gea's old MO was. You need someone that when the ball goes to their feet, that everyone in front of them open up, Scott. Everyone goes, I'm going to get a pass here. And we know with David De Gea, it was always so limited. So I think in terms of playing out from the back and United playing effectively, a goalkeeper is going to be much more revolutionary than a striker. Like, because you have players that can play through the middle, you just haven't got the one that you really want, but you may be about to get him, as we will be talking. And I think with Onana, there was only one guy the manager wanted. It's been Onana for a while, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And as soon as Onana knew that his old manager wanted him, done and dusted. So it is a revolutionary sign. I don't like to normally do that and say stuff like that, but I think we're going to see stuff in the next few weeks where we're like, and you're going to be very
It's
excited.
just such a departure in style, isn't it, from what we saw before? Like, and
Different
that's
game.
why it basically allows United to play a different game, and that is essentially why you use the word revolution.
You can't watch teams like Man City and say, "Oh, look how great they are because they do this, this, and this," and then not plagiarize them. Like, this is what works in the game. Get a goalkeeper that can do these things. And I used to back David De Gea, didn't I? And I was always, because I am the moderate, you know, I'd always say that. I'd back David De Gea. And I'm not stupid. I know David De Gea can't play out with his feet. So if the manager wants that, get rid of David De Gea and bring in a goalkeeper that does that. And that's where we are. So you've now got a goalkeeper, I think, that will not just play out from the back, Scott, but he'll make those around him better. Like, he really will. And you'll find that the fullbacks, the centre-backs will all be so much more comfortable. Casemiro dropping in for the ball will know that he'll get that extra 5 seconds to turn because he's getting a good pass. He's not coming to the edge of the area. Do you remember the Harry Maguire mistake? And we all debated, was that
Which
Maguire's? The one where David De Gea passed the ball to him on the edge of the box and he tries to play it out to the fullback. Which game was that? Was that Sevilla? Was that
Sevilla? Yeah, I want to say Sevilla.
It feels like a European match, doesn't it? And you can blame whoever you want there, but the truth is, it comes from the first wave, which is where does that pass end up?
Yeah, I remember it was Sevilla. It was a big debate about it and like whose fault it was.
And I said it was Maguire's fault because he's got to make that decision in that moment. But I do totally understand that he's looking at that pass thinking, I'm not getting a good pass here. I'm going to rush. So as soon as you've got a goalkeeper that can play those passes with his eyes closed, everyone else goes, oh, this is a lot easier, isn't it? So I think we'll see that with Onana now, is that we'll be a lot more like Man City from the back. Like, there'll be a lot more passing out, a lot more rhythm, and the ball will go from back to front a lot more with more fluidity.
I didn't manage to catch the full 90 of United Lyon the other day because I was in a long meeting. That's besides the point. But I did obviously saw highlights of it. I saw clips going around, and we've mentioned Kovar already. And there was a passage of play where I think he was passing it along the back, and people were really quite taken aback by how good he was with his own distribution. There was an element of it where I think he passed it to Lisandro Martinez against a press, and Martinez just kind of pivoted, turned, and he just ran into a flood of space for like slightly above the penalty area. And that's what we're talking about when we say that Ten Hag's already changed the mindset, and now Onana's kind of come in and is that missing piece to allow them to do it better and properly. And I think that's the biggest change we'll see.
Ten Hag's done what all good coaches do, and that is, this is my philosophy, and if you guys can't do it, then over time I will ebb away from you and I will find ways of playing that philosophy. Here we are 12 months on, and we saw what he wanted to do last season. It was all very evident: 4-1-5, counter press, pass out from the back, all of this stuff. And then it all went a bit mishmash with the injuries and towards the end of the season with the fatigue, because you haven't got the options. So what do you do as a coach? You go back to the transfer market and you find those players. You don't worry that Harry Maguire's your captain. You just sit him on the bench. You just say, sorry, lad, you're not playing. You don't worry that David De Gea is a legendary goalkeeper. You say, we did want you for 200 grand a week, but do you know what? We don't. You can stay for 120 and sit on our bench. Then the player leaves. This is how you manage these situations in any workplace. You try and edge people out the door so you can bring in better people. And I just think that's the way it is with Onana, is that he will scare a few United fans. I've said that repeatedly, but I also think a lot of United fans just love what they see from him, because when he's clipping balls out to feet to the right wing or the left wing, and it's literally going 2 feet, everyone at Old Trafford's going to be like, we've not seen this before. This is all very accurate. This feels like what we watch when we watch Man City. So plagiarize the best teams, but do it your own way. You know, you're going to see United play out from the back now a hell of a lot this season. As
I saw this morning as well on Twitter, yes, you might get the Onana scary moments, odd moments, but equally, you probably watched David De Gea over the last year and thought, oh God, what's going to happen here. So maybe you had that element of fear.
Every game.
Yeah, most games.
Every game when David De Gea can have a good game with his feet, and his best game is not as good as Ederson or Alisson or Onana's worst game with their feet. So that's the problem, isn't it? Is that you're only operating with this kind of fake ceiling about where you're pushing the goalkeeper, and that's why the manager withdrew the contract. That's why he said, "Look, I didn't have a budget for this, but now I'm making sure I've got a budget for this, and you're going to have to probably depart the football club." And I'm okay with that because that's a football decision. It's nothing personal. It's just like we need someone who can play out from the back more. Onana is that player, and I like it as well that he's quite a gregarious character. Like he's strong-willed. I
saw an interview with him yesterday where he dropped an S-bomb in it.
There was going to be plenty of that, but I like goalkeepers to be a little bit mad. Like I like them to have that kind of edge to them. And I think that he's going to help the back four in front of him to be a proper unit. And I think that's what De Gea didn't really do. De Gea didn't add to that. He was just a kind of last-minute shot stopper. And as you've pointed out many times, his shot stopping maybe is not at the elite level that it was, say, 2 or 3 years ago. So you're losing his main kind of credibility there. But I think when you look at Onana, he is a really good shot stopper. He will pass the ball out from the back. Man United will play a lot more football.
Good week for United. Onana signed. Marcus Rashford's contract has been confirmed. We talked about that on the last show. 5-year deal till 2028. And also Bruno Fernandes was announced as club captain on Thursday, I believe. We knew that was going to happen as well, Rob.
Yeah.
Quick comment.
Yeah, the right decision out ultimately. You don't need to rock the boat by putting in a left field captain. And I do think that Bruno Fernandes deputised for Harry Maguire virtually all of last season. So he kind of is already the captain, isn't he? I think the biggest debate was, does Bruno start games every time when you bring in other players? And I think the fact that you brought Mason Mount in as your midfield signing and not Frankie de Jong or someone like that, it means that you're going to see Bruno Fernandes be on a football pitch every game. And I think he'll probably be closer up to the top end of the pitch as number 10.
Is he too petulant to be captain?
Look, I highlighted that, didn't I, a couple of weeks ago when we talked about it, and I said I don't like those things about Bruno. He just has to sort it out. Like that's the be all and end all of it. Is that when he's on a football pitch, he has to conduct himself not like a statesman or anything like that, but he has to make sure that he isn't the one falling over all the time. He isn't the one maybe setting a bad example. But I don't think these other millionaire footballers around him, Scott, are going to look at the captain and go, "Oh, because our captain falls over them, then that's a bad example for us." Now, they're all men who are highly skilled individuals. So I think with Bruno, it's more actually having a figurehead, one of your starters. And I think he's a better captain's choice than Harry Maguire. I put it as simple as that. But I would have quite liked to have seen someone like Martinez be the captain, or I said even Casemiro.
It's too early. I would have liked that too. It was too early for him.
But it's better, isn't it? You've got a number of leaders now as opposed to just maybe one or two. And I think when Harry Maguire was made captain, the real issue was
the question was who's the leader? Like there's no leaders in this team. And now you look through the spine of it and you probably say Onana's got enough about him to be considered in that bracket, you'd think. Martinez, definitely. Rafa Varane, been there, done it everywhere. Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, who is your captain. That's your spine. Right there. I'll go for Luke Shaw growing into it.
You need leaders who don't need the armband. That's what you need. So even like Mason Mount, I'd put into that category. Like the first thing he said in his interview was, "I pull people out in the dressing room. Be sure of that. That's what I do. I know that's what's needed. I have to lead." And I like that. Marcus Rashford, even is more of a quiet leader, but definitely a kind of figurehead of the football club. So you've now got more players that look like leaders or want leadership roles, as opposed to when Harry Maguire got the armband and we were all a little bit like, there's really no one else to get it. Maybe De Gea at that point you could have given it to, but people didn't want a goalkeeper to have the armband. So yeah, I'm all good with Bruno, and I think he'll enjoy being captain as well. He has that ego about him. I think he'll enjoy being Manchester United captain, leading the team out there. And if Man United win trophies in the next year or two, he'll be the guy with his hands on the silverware. I think he'll really enjoy that role.
We talk leaders. This is no criticism of Rasmus Hojlund. He's on the other end of the spectrum in terms of experience and all this kind of stuff. 20 years old, wanted by Man United, and is very much a raw development project, but one raw development project that United quite fancy the look of and quite fancy taking on. Now, this week, suggestions, well, it's been confirmation from our under 90 minutes and just to various places. United have agreed personal terms with his camp and with the player himself. So it's a kind where we stand now is Rasmus Hojlund wants this move to happen. Man United want the player. Atalanta are open to selling, but they have a price that they want to be met. United have, and in credit to United, we're talking about this off podcast. United for years have been, look how much money we've got. We're going to pay Leicester whatever. We'll pay you 80 million for Harry Maguire, because we got loads of money. This year, it's been, money's tight. And as much as you can criticize the stance of, United have got FFP issues and, they haven't got a lot of money to spend. And while this is the downfall of the richest club in the world, is there some kind of, the fact that United are publicizing that so much, does it maybe it stresses the position that they're in to other clubs who thought in maybe last year that they could end up rinsing them for a transfer fee? And we've seen it in, I think United, they maybe overpaid for Mason Mount, but not dramatically. They didn't pay 80 million for Mason Mount. I think, they're looking in a ballpark of like 45 to 60 million quid, which is probably where you should be looking for players. I don't think you can really say in today's market that amount of money is overpaying for, talent that you think is going to play in your first team for the next 5 years. I don't really think when you're a club of United's aspirations, that's the market City buying or have been buying in for a few years. I know they've gone up now with the Vardiel fee and this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I've been quite impressed. United have stuck to their guns. And I think that's what they're doing here. Like, from what I understand, they've got a ceiling of 60 million euros for Rasmus Hojlund, and they're sticking to that. Rob, I don't know whether you've heard any different, but they're basically saying this is as much as we're prepared to pay. And if you're not prepared to play ball with us and you're not prepared to meet us in the middle or come to an agreement that we're happy with, that you're happy with, then we'll go and get someone else. I think the threats of Kolo Muani personally to me are a bit like, we have this other option over here if you're not going to play ball, but I don't really think United are going to actually do that. Maybe they'll make some noises. Remember the Caicedo thing with Mason Mount? Oh, well, United have switched their attention to Moises Caicedo now instead of Mason Mount, and a week later Mason Mount signed. I'm rambling, Rob. You want to cut in before? There's more for me to talk about, but I'm rambling.
Yeah, let's take care of our viewers through the timeline a little bit. So a month ago, we did a show called United Want Hojlund. Everyone was like, oh, well, we kind of knew that, didn't we? We were like, well, no, what's changed? Well, what changed at the time was Harry Kane. So we know with the Harry Kane situation, that's ongoing. It's still bubbling away, isn't it?
Don't talk about Harry Kane.
Will he stay at Spurs? Will he not stay at Spurs? We won't put Harry Kane in the title, so don't get upset, people. But Harry Kane, it was always about, if you could get Harry Kane, then that's the striker you're going to go and do business for. Harry Kane is still up in the air. It's no kind of clearer. It's as clear as mud. So United a month ago looked at their striking options, and Hojlund was the one that they felt that they could go and get, but they didn't like Atalanta's asking price. So Atalanta suddenly were going through Gazzetta dello Sport and people like that. They want 70 million. They want 80 million. This is what we're going to do business at. And let's be honest, the old Manchester United would have done that. The Ed Woodward Man United that used to love to flash the cash. And as Ed once said, the Galactico project of Manchester United, bit silly doing that, isn't it? Because you're really putting yourself on an echelon there that you probably shouldn't be on. If you're going to go get someone like Hojlund, as you just said, they're right at the beginning, Scott, he's a development project. You can't pay top whack for him, but you're still going to have to pay something. So Man United got Mount and they got Onana, both for under the initial valuations of those two football clubs, from Chelsea and Inter Milan. And they're going to do the same with Atalanta. That's the right way to do it. I think the big thing to say here, Scott, and this is, I think, the real bit where you kind of, the litmus test of whether the player comes or not, is does the player really want it? Does the player really want this? Rasmus Hojlund is a Manchester United fan. He really wants this move. So I think when you look at Onana, as soon as Onana heard that United were in, there was no choice. He was leaving it. He was coming. And he's even said that, didn't he, in his comments the other day? When I get the chance to go at Old Trafford, it's like the biggest opportunity of my life. I've got to take it. Mason Mount could have gone to several clubs and banged his fist on the table and said, I'm only going to Manchester United, Chelsea, if you sell me. That's where I'm going. He pushed that move. With Rasmus Hojlund now, I think that's where we're going in the next week or two. He wants to move. Man United feel they can get him for now for a good price. I initially said only, I think yesterday or the day before, that United were probably going to have to push towards the mid-60s on him. But that's come in a lot now because I think United feel they can do this business at the lower end of their own valuation. And it feels that Atalanta are moving on from him already. They're inquiring about strikers. They're looking for a replacement. They're already spending money, Scott, that they haven't got, but that money will be coming to them via Manchester United's accounts.
Yeah, El Bilal Toure is one of the targets that they would they see as a potential replacement. It's been linked with a lot of clubs, but it does make a lot of sense. I've seen Hugo Ekitike's name linked with them as well. Moved to PSG last year after Newcastle made a public play for him, and that went very well for him. That's sarcasm, total sarcasm. But yeah, I think the sticking point at the minute, like we're already talking about personal terms agreed in principle. United are, as is the problem here. Like, and I'll reference back. Atalanta are previous with Man United overpaying for one of their players. They bought Ahmad for too much money a few years ago, and that was just 2-3 years ago. So it's not far in the past, you know. So they probably think, or there was probably a point where they thought, oh, well, it's Man United. We can ask a little bit more money than we usually would for this kind of player. And to their credit, I think United have changed. I think the sticking point at the minute might be, and I wrote an article on this a couple of days ago as well, that Atalanta want chunks of money up front this year and next. I think that what we reported the other day is they want the fee in 2 halves over the next 2 years. And I think, you know, United obviously don't want to do that. They want to try and stretch it out as far as they possibly can just to save their cash position, this kind of thing. But to be honest, I think this is just going to take some time to work out through talks. Atalanta are not, and clubs in Serie A, as we know, are not exactly cash rich. So I think United have that advantage in their pocket as well of, you know, Atalanta probably could do with this money to reinvest. And they're making a hell of a lot of money on him anyway, given they only signed him, what 12, 18 months ago or something like that for a very small fee in comparison to what they'd make this time. Atalanta obviously have, and I gave this example on a video I did yesterday. I think United are looking at this player now because they're very conscious that if he goes and scores 20, 25 goals in Serie A this season, he's going to cost the same money as what Victor Osimhen probably costs now, or like 100 million euros or something like that. So people might level at United that they are overpaying in this instance, but a slight argument for it, maybe, given he hasn't actually done much in football yet. But at the same time, they probably, if this works out and you trust that Erik Ten Hag knows what he's doing, given all the success he's had so far with developing players, that will be a bargain if this transfer goes well in the future.
Definitely. Look, again, I think you can really use the Onana deal as a barometer as to how this potentially might go.
Sorry, my watch was talking to me.
I was about to say, I was like, what was that noise then? Kind of scared. I didn't wonder if it was in my head or something. But I think you can look at the Onana deal, and obviously with Inter Milan, obviously being an Italian club, you can look at kind of the structure of that. So let's compare that just briefly. As that Inter Milan initially said that they wanted closer to 60 million. Manchester United said that they were looking more at around 40. And our information, I think several weeks ago, and we said it on the show, put our neck on the block, so that Manchester United did not want to pay a penny over 47 million. That was what we quoted. The deal has come in at 47.2 plus add-ons. So I think Man United will stick to their guns with this. They've got a kind of a benchmark of what they will do with Atalanta in terms of price-wise. Atalanta will get a good fee for him, but they're not going to get this kind of blockbuster, incredible fee. They were looking at kind of that 70 to 80 million mark, and Manchester United rightfully said, we're not doing that business. We're not even going there. We're not even going to chat about that. We'll leave it there. We're going to look at more this end of the spectrum. So whatever they get Hojlund for will be what they believe is still value in terms of their overall project. They need a striker. This is something you cannot run away from, in the same way that they needed a goalkeeper. It was just something you couldn't debate, could you? There was no debate. De Gea's out the club. You need a goalkeeper. Man United need a number 9. Why? Well, not because they haven't got a number 9 in-house. They've got Martial, they've got Rashford. It's because you let Ronaldo go. So Ronaldo's gone. He was your number 9, the guy who's supposed to score all your goals. So Hojlund's coming in, and I think it will be a different type of signing, in the sense that you'll pay good money for him. He will play most of the games, but you're going to play him in a different style. Like I said it yesterday, and I have to keep repeating it. He is not Haaland. Haaland, both blonde, both Scandinavian. That's basically where the similarities begin and end. He could become a really goal-scoring number 9 forward, but it's because he does different factions around the box, how he plays, likes to drop in, likes to link play, likes to let players run beyond him. And he's also got pace to be able to then rejoin the play. That's why Ten Hag wants him, because that's the kind of player he wants in the number 9 shirt. So I think this is why, like we said, didn't we? I said last week, I think this gets done at the end of the window. I'm now going to scrap that. I think United probably get this done in 2 or 3 weeks and get him even potentially on the tour, because he's so keen, and Manchester United feel like they've made headway now in terms of the fee. Atalanta need the money. All the Italian clubs need this cash in the same way that Inter did. Inter wanted that money for Onana, and I think Onana revealed it yesterday, didn't he? He said all parties wanted this deal, and that's exactly the line that we said a week ago, is that when all parties are together, you can find a way, and that's kind of where we feel we are now with Hojlund.
United consciously shopping in Serie A this year. We'll talk about Sofyan Amrabat in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
That one not quite as advanced, I would say, to put it lightly. But, United have to start looking at value. And I think they have done that a lot better this summer than they have in previous transfer windows over the last, even 5-10 years. So anything to add on Rasmus Hojlund, Rob? I think we've covered all the main bases. But, do you think, I'll ask you this one. Do you think he's in for the first game of the Premier League season?
Yes, potentially. Like I do feel that this deal is a goer now. And there was always a lot of debate about it, about what Manchester United could do in the negotiation terms. And as you've said there, they've agreed the wages, they've agreed kind of the basis of the player's deal, and the player is desperate. And I think once the player wants to come, you've won the battle. So I think with Hojlund, he could be there for the first game of the season, but that's not the most important thing, Scott. The most important thing is that he's here, is that you have a number 9 that you can now develop, and you can move away from Anthony Martial. So Martial isn't fit or doesn't want to leave or wants to sit on his contract and earn all that money, and he can do that exactly the same way of what you said to Harry Maguire last week to him. You went, well, if you're going to stay, okay, but you're not our captain anymore and you're not going to play. Suddenly players don't like that, Scott. Suddenly they start talking and that they want to leave. So this is all part of it, I think. If you go get Hojlund and that player comes in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it suddenly means you can move a Martial maybe a little bit more easily, or you can find a fee for him or an exit out the door. You've got Rashford. You've got all your other contracts kind of tied up now. You just need to get that number 9 in. And I think he will be he won't be an automatic starter, Scott, but I think he will start 75% of the games.
Yeah, I think that's a safe way to summarize it. Anthony Martial, you mentioned there, I think he's out of contract at the end of this season. If I haven't,
he'll go to De Gea way.
I think that's the way it's looking.
They won't trigger anything, and in the end, we'll get to the point where they go, will they trigger the year? Will they trigger the year? Will they trigger the year? Martial might come off the bench, score some goals. We'll go, he's quite good again, isn't he? Oh, and he gets injured again. It's the same story. It goes around. It's like perpetual, non-stop. So I think that United have made it pretty crystal clear that they want a striker. This is where they're going. And it is to do really with Martial's failures last season. I think that's the big reason why they've gone in that direction. And of course, Cristiano Ronaldo leaving the football club.
I wouldn't rule out that extension necessarily being triggered if Martial can prove over the course of a season that he can stay fit and score goals. But I just can't see that happening. So
not on what he's on. I think this is the thing. United are really keen to shrink their waist. It's huge. And I think this is where the De Gea thing came about, is that the sick thing about De Gea was that you offered him 200 grand a week to stay, and then you didn't sign the contract that you offered him. So all right, maybe just don't offer him that contract. I don't see that being the same thing with Martial. I don't think they say, oh, do you know what? You're on our bench, so we'll give you 100 grand a week. I don't think Martial's going to like that. He's just going to go somewhere else, earn his money and play his football. So, look, Martial would have the chance, I think, to play football next year. Like, as I said, if Hojlund's only playing 75% of the games, which is still quite a lot of games, then Martial might start 25% and give you some value, and you might be able to look after his fitness a bit more.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about Sofyan Amrabat, who is... I think this one, you're not going to need to start, shifting some players on first. I think there's the Alex Telles deal we talked about the other day has hit a hitch. And now I don't think that Al Nassr move is actually, I think they've had second thoughts. And that's not good news. But I do know that Flamengo are one of the teams who are interested in him. I think he would like to go back to Brazil. So this might be a case of, free transfer, get out. But that's not 4 million that they're adding to the bank as it stands. But they do need to sell other players. Donny van de Beek admitting after the friendly the other day, I might leave publicly. Fred is on the chopping block as well. So there's some players there that you could potentially raise some money for. Just a word on Van der Beek. Do you want it to work for him? He's just a lovely guy, and just a nice lad. Lovely goal as well. Great goal.
It was great goal, really great goal. I don't know if I'm going to sound ruthless here or a bit of a jerk. I don't care. Like, I want players that do well for you. That's all I care about. So, like, I want players to do well. There's always something that you kind of lean towards in terms of their personality. And Donny van der Beek is an articulate guy, and I think he deserves success. But he only really deserves it if he proves it on a football pitch. And he just hasn't. Like, he's just been unlucky with injury. And when he's had opportunity, he just looks soft. He never really got up to speed with the Premier League. And I think that's the reason why he is on the chopping block. And it's a bit like Fred. Fred's a popular guy. Lots of people like Fred because he runs around a lot and all this. And then when they moan about Man United's technicality, they don't look at the players that are the problems in terms of the technicality. And Fred is a problem in the same way that Scott McTominay is a problem, in that other players are problems, that you have to sort those problems out to move them on. So I think with Donny is that I wouldn't be against Donny van der Beek staying another season to have a go at it. Would I go to Old Trafford, Scott, on a Saturday or a Sunday and go, oh, I'm really happy that Donny van der Beek's in the starting lineup today? No, I wouldn't. I just don't care. I want players that help you win. That's why I want Onana at the football club in goal, because I think he'll help you win more games than maybe De Gea did last season. And that's from someone that supported David De Gea. So that's my balancing point. I hope Donny has a good career. Like, he's been unlucky, I think, at Man United. But I also think that he needs to carry the responsibility as to why his form has been so, what's the word? Drab. I used the word pathetic for Jadon Sancho's form recently, and I would say the same for Donny. Just to mention on Jadon playing the false nine the last week against Lyon, thought he was very good. Really good game from him. Watched the whole game, and his movement, his energy, his work through the middle, drifting into the half space. I was like, yes, Jadon, that looks like someone who's dialed in, but that's only a pre-season match, isn't it? So we need to see that now in the new campaign.
Yes. So they'll need to raise some money, and Sofyan Amrabat United have had conversations with his representatives, but they are not the only clubs who have had conversations as well. I think you can add Liverpool into that, about early inquiries made, West Ham into that as well.
Barcelona.
Everyone wants to go to Barcelona, but Barcelona don't have any money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the be all and end all. Atletico Madrid are also in there as well, but they're in a similar position. They need to sell first. So it's a case of, if you ask me, or if you ask most, I think Amrabat would like to go to Spain. I'd say that, but that might not be the reality. And I would say Premier League is a very, very valid option for him. Now, Liverpool is selling some players. Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, both leaving. And I look at that Liverpool midfield and I think they don't have a defensive midfielder in there, like, at all. So I personally, I think they need one. So I would think that might be a bit of a threat to United. But looking at a 30 million euro deal for a player in the last year of his contract who's just had a great World Cup. Usually you wouldn't like to buy players off the back of a great World Cup because they're overpriced. But in this instance, that's great value. But I think United need to raise some money first. And their CEO, Joe Baroni, has said, we've not received any proposal for Sofyan yet. I told him to stay focused on our club, but they are in talks with his representatives. And I think if United manage to get their house in order, do you think this one could be done before Hojlund?
Potentially, yes, I do. Because, again, let's kind of talk through the timeline. Amrabat would love to go to Barcelona. That's the truth. So
you see João Felix's comments the other day.
Yeah, exactly. I know. See, that's a classic example, isn't it, about what players outwardly project, but then that's not always what the business is saying. But I think with Amrabat, Fred's going. Man United are going to sell him, just the way it is. And they want to sell Scott McTominay as well. They want to. You haven't got Sabitzer. That has kind of, that ship has sailed and gone away.
I think he scored 4 goals in a friendly 27-0 win the other day, though. So
there you go. Those classic Bundesliga friendlies before, and where their teams win 30-0 and stuff like that. But they're 3 central midfielders who fulfill a certain, like, what I would call running around function. Like, if you want to play number 6, great, but you need players that can have energy in the core part of the pitch. Mason Mount brings a little bit of that, doesn't he? That's part of his game. But I do think that when you look at Amrabat, the key component here and the key rival to go and get him is Liverpool. You're right. Like Liverpool now, they've just sold £700,000 a week waged Jordan Henderson.
Not done yet, but I think
it's done. It's done. He's going out there. It's done. Liverpool are quite happy to push that deal through. That's the kind of money that they're going to get for him, for a player of maybe his age and maybe a player who doesn't particularly going to feature as much going forward. But they need an Amrabat. Liverpool need an Amrabat type player. Of course, the whole Fabinho thing comes into that as well. I think with the player himself, and this is again the big point with Onana, and even to an extent, like we've said before, the likes of Anthony, Martinez, everyone like that, is that Amrabat is a former Ten Hag player. And Ten Hag loves doing this, the old tap-up merchant. That's what I'm going to start calling him. A little bit like Fergie used to do, the kind of phone call in the middle of the night type thing and come and play for me, son, type thing. And I think with Amrabat, seeing United being active, like in terms of like Onana, Mount, and seeing kind of that they're pushing on the project and they're trying to obviously be a viable Champions League contender next year and a Premier League contender, it suddenly looks a lot more exciting. A year ago, I think Amrabat might look to Man United and go straight out, no, thank you, not interested in this. What's my point? I want to go to Barcelona. So I think he'll come to the Premier League. I really do. I think that's where his representatives would like him to go because that's where the money is. But I think there's a big opportunity in Manchester United in terms of the midfield because Casemiro and Amrabat, I think, will be the kind of building blocks of that midfield. And that will allow the likes of Mount, Eriksen, Bruno, everyone else in the team to go and do the more forward-thinking jobs. And he's a really good player. You're right. At that price, there's not going to be a lot of haggling at that. I think Man United know that they'd have to get very close to his club's asking fee to be able to execute that deal.
I suppose when I look at the Liverpool team, it's what you prefer, I guess. United can offer Champions League football, but I don't automatically think Amrabat's a starter, given the midfield that they have. Whereas with Liverpool, they have Europa League football, but I do think they could make him an automatic starter for most games. So, difficult decision. It depends. It depends who can get the house in order first for me.
Definitely. Who wants him most? That often is the way with these deals, is that whoever goes in earliest and hardest, you go get the player. But I think the manager side of it is important. What I will say is this, even though he has that link with Ten Hag and Ten Hag knows him really well and has spoken about him outwardly in the past, I also do think that Jurgen Klopp is quite a persuasive individual. Jurgen Klopp is brilliant at the old phone call and changing someone's mind to come and play for Liverpool because he sells Liverpool in a very unique way. And it's the kind of way that Pep does with City. Like, Pep is bigger than Man City, dare I say. Like, Pep is the guy that people want to play for.
Dare you say. It's absolutely correct.
Well, it's absolutely correct. And I think the thing is with Liverpool having a poor season last year, or what you would say a below average season for them, not getting anywhere near their own kind of goals, that you can go to an Amrabat, can't you, and say, look, we're moving these midfielders on. Here's our captain. He's gone out to the football club because he's just won the lottery. So is there any chance that you'd like to come and play for us? And I think Jurgen Klopp was very good at that. And Amrabat might look at that and go, yeah, I'm more likely to start at Liverpool next season because they haven't got Casemiro.
We'll see how that one develops. United have a ton of players that they'd like to sell on, but obviously that's going to take some work for them. They will need to offload some players. They need to get better at you were going to say something there, right?
Charlie Savage on his way out the door, I believe. Charlie Savage got off to Reading. So again, that's another squad piece of a midfield that you're talking about moving on. Someone that a year ago you were talking about maybe giving minutes to or finding the loan that bridged the gap. So that Savage, Zidane's gone. Those two players are not going to make that first team leap now, which means that you will be looking for some kind of midfielder to help out in the mix.
Shout out for Kobe Manu.
He's going to get minutes. Like, he's the guy. He's the one who's remaining. He's going to be king. Like, I'm going to say this. I think I did a tweet yesterday that said I'm chairman of the Kobe Manu fan club, and I have been. I'm banging his drum for a year now, in the same way that I was banging Garnacho's drum a year ago. So, yeah, he's going to get minutes, but you're going to have to let him develop, aren't you? Like, it's great seeing him on these tour games playing, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the flesh. I hope we see him in Las Vegas, because I think he's an incredible talent, an all-round number 8 who can do the things for you that Fred can't do and that Scotty McTominay cannot do. But then you still do need an Amrabat type player to help the likes of Manu out.
if United get these deals done, I think I'll be relatively happy with the squad balance. That is Hojlund and Sofyan Amrabat and Johnny Evans. Obviously, sorry if the volume jumped there, but I'm just so excited about Johnny Evans.
He's getting a contract. I'm putting my neck on the block.
Contract, personally.
He's getting 12 months. He's going to get a 12-month contract. And I think I think reading the tea leaves, I think Harry Maguire will be on the plane for the tour. And then Harry Maguire, right? Well, they're out there, was on the plane for the tour, I should say. And then we'll be on a plane back to the UK or somewhere else to negotiate a potential new contract for him at another football club.
Well, that's it for us, I think, today. Subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts and watch us on YouTube. We do twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, generally. Although I don't know, when we're away, you might get some impromptu pod drops.
Some live stuff, live content here, maybe, Scott?
Yes, indeed. We'll see. We'll decide that in the coming days, and hopefully there's some extra special bits coming as well. So head over to the channel, like, subscribe, and leave a comment for us as well. Leave a 5-star review on audio platforms, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, and leave a nice comment for us as well. We do see those, and we do appreciate them. And follow us on Twitter as well, at @_ Scott Saunders, at _Rob_B, and at @PromiselandMU for the show. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, etc. at @_ Scott Saunders. Rob, your channel's launched.
Yes, well, look, thanks to a load of people subscribed last week after I spoke about it. But yeah, if you guys could all jump on to my new YouTube channel, it's the same here as my handle here for Twitter. So if you want to find me on YouTube, it's youtube.com/ @_Rob_B. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a ton of live content next season, but also from the tour. And it's just going to be a lot more Man United things. So if you enjoy our show here and you enjoy what I do and what we kind of put out as a product, please follow that channel because that's how you help me grow it.
Yes, and please follow us as well. We'll see you next week for some more Promised Land chat. Until then, everyone, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.